You hit the road every day, aware of the dangers. But what about the risks you don't know and can't see coming?
Every time I think about it, I just get the chills.
Nearly 2 months ago,
This was mine, and then this one was his.
21-year-old Hayden Breeze lived to tell
I was like, what are you doing?
the moment before her 22-year-old boyfriend
And I look over at him, and he's having a seizure.
drove straight
He was wearing it the day he passed.
into a pond.
I look back, and we're in water. I'm just screaming his name, just trying to get him to come to.
And he told me that he loved me.
Dorothy Carver was seeking hope for her husband's terminal lung disease.
We thought it was worth a try, just to breathe better.
She loved to play cards.
Olga Cassidy wanted a little more time with her husband also dying.
So I thought he'll have a little bit better life and we can live longer.
I'm at a bad stage now.
And Maureen Rosen was just trying to slow down her COPD. The Lung Institute offered an answer.
I thought, this is great. I can go for probably years without needing oxygen.
This is what I do most of my day.
Look at Terry Coombs.
If I walk, I'll lose my breath.
It's no surprise.
Can't do nearly nothing.
63 feels like
85, COPD, heart trouble, quadruple bypass, diabetes too. I forgot about that. I left that one out.
a few years ago, a medical supply company started calling,
2 or 3 times a day.
trying to pitch him diabetes supplies he says he didn't want
I mean, they just wouldn't leave me alone. They just kept calling.
or need.
I just started yelling at them.
Wrote back board member Marianne Ferentz, a Tampa restaurant owner.
That was simply me getting up to speed.
Seems to suggest that the communication wasn't, I guess, occurring. Am I misinterpreting this?
No, I think that the communication was occurring to the people that were affected. The communication may not have been, going out to the entire board or the entire industry.
Should it?
I don't mean to be evasive in the answer, but I would really have to think that through of what the importance of it would be.
Commissioner Stewart, can you?
An issue the State Department of Education does not agree with, but leaders refuse to talk about on camera.
You're interrupting me in my 15-minute break for lunch. Is that correct?
State's Education Commissioner clearly frustrated by our questions at this recent board meeting.
I'll answer your question when you answer mine.
I am interrupting your 15 minutes to have lunch so we can get answers for the thousands of teachers who continue to struggle. Is that acceptable to you?
It is acceptable to me to have high-quality teachers in the classroom.
Turns out Florida has its own law dedicated to ballot design. It's 9 pages long and spells out everything from font size to bold type. But when it comes to voter instruction, election supervisors can cast their own vote. Right now, the state is monitoring nearly 75,000 medically risky drivers. We can't tell you how often it fails to follow up on them. Medical records are private, which means our only insight into this issue is 2 state reports 5 years apart but show similar problems.
Brody, you gotta do it straight.
When you're a busy mom of 4,
I love you too.
unexpected swings
You went too high?
happen. But Daisy Britton never anticipated what she recently learned about the water where 2 of her sons go to school.
I didn't have to worry about what I didn't know is lead poisoning when I was a child, and now I'm having to worry about it for my children. It just doesn't seem right.
Across the country and around the state, lead-contaminated water has put schools in the spotlight
Testing revealing high lead levels
and under the microscope. In Hillsborough County, since the district started lead testing last year, 54 schools have tested above the federal standard for action, including the elementary school where Daisy's kids go. 2 water fountains there recently tested nearly 4 and 5 times above that federal standard, and nearly 50 and 70 times above what the American Academy of Pediatrics deems a safe level for kids.
I was amazed at the levels of them. It was actually shocking.
While the school is replacing those fountains, we've discovered the majority of Florida school districts do not test for the metal toxin.
Florida law doesn't require lead testing on campus, which is why we discovered across our state school policies run the gamut. From some school districts conducting annual lead tests on water fountains like this one on campus, to others relying on counties and cities to test off campus, and still others doing no testing at all.
Of 66 Florida school districts who responded to our request, nearly 60%, more than half, don't do any testing for lead in the water on campus.
Oh, we got another water fountain right down there too.
Sarasota County invited us along as it started testing school water about a month ago.
Why has it taken so long?
You know, that's a good question. Why has it taken so long? It's one of those things that, like I said, we had just not been alerted to. We weren't aware it was something that was a concern until very recently.
Got this one.
By the end of the month, all campuses built pre-1986 will get sampled. But that's not the case at all schools in our viewing area. While Pinellas County schools sample the water on campus annually, Polk County schools just started this year. Manatee claims it's going to, and Pasco County only partially, telling us the majority of schools get county water, which is not tested on campus. It's a statewide failure spelled out in this 2017 Environment Florida report, where the Sunshine State got an F for failing to keep school water from becoming laced with lead.
Lead testing is like Russian roulette. We don't really know what's out there, and so certainly that means that Florida is not tackling the solution as well.
The group, which has voiced its concerns for years, is now calling on lawmakers to adopt new school lead rules, from annual testing to mandatory filters.
Ready? Whoosh! They get 2 bottles of water in their book bag.
Still, Daisy Britton is concerned.
I don't want my child to be poisoned where they're supposed to feel safe.
911, what is your emergency?
I think I hear gunshots.
9 months after Parkland.
Active shooter.
Somebody's mentally ill.
We found Florida's young and mentally ill.
So you think he could be the next Nicholas Cruz?
He absolutely could. He absolutely, or worse.
Are still falling through the cracks.
This is my son. He's my little boy.
This father, who we're not identifying by name to protect his son,
He was doing his homework. He was behaving in class.
says the system is failing his family.
And how old is he?
13.
13 years old. And you're saying he has already tried to kill you?
Yes.
And your wife?
Yep. His goal was to kill us, kill the dog, and then drink the rest and kill himself.
Today, his 13-year-old son is in state custody, facing multiple charges after admitting he stabbed the family dog and tried to poison his parents with toilet bowl cleaner.
It's shocking to me. I still don't even know how to deal with it.
Over the past 5 years, his son has been flagged for an involuntary psych exam 5 times, sent for short-term treatment 3, and now diagnosed with several mental and behavioral disorders.
I'm exhausted from trying.
His son has been trapped in the revolving door of the state's mental health system.
The longest he was in any of them was 1 month before they told us that everything was fine. We're about halfway home and he tells us he wants to kill himself now. And they're like, he's your problem now. If he's suicidal, call the police, have him Baker Acted again.
It's part of a growing problem. Reports of mental or behavioral issues among Florida's kids is up 55% in 5 years, and so is the demand for residential treatment beds. But the state has only added 4 beds for children during that same time.
If anybody thinks that we are going to prevent another school shooting, prevent another bad act, that's naive. It's going to happen.
Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gualtieri, who leads a task force formed in the wake of Parkland, says little has changed since the deadliest school shooting in Florida's history.
Should I feel confident as a parent that Florida is doing enough to help mentally ill children?
No.
Earlier this year, state lawmakers approved more than $100 million to provide mental health services to students at school. But judges say they're seeing more kids with mental illness ending up in court.
We're trying to address it as rapidly as possible.
And Judge Robert Bowman says they're getting younger.
Anywhere from 8 to 13 years old.
What does that tell you?
It's scary.
Hillsborough County's juvenile courtrooms have been forced to act as mental health court, too.
I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but it's a scary proposition. If we do nothing, then is it going to increase?
Yep.
Ryan Petty knows the consequence of letting kids with mental illness fall through the cracks.
Does it get better?
No, but it becomes reality.
His 14-year-old daughter, freshman Elena Petty, was gunned down and killed by Nicholas Cruz.
The part that to me is most enraging is that there were signs.
Cruz had a long history of mental illness and received treatment.
Well, clearly it didn't work.
Petty is calling for a complete overhaul of how the state handles mental illness in kids.
You can't just put a bunch of money into a system and not change the culture of that system.
A system this father is still trying to navigate.
With all my heart, I hope that he can move on from it.
As his 13-year-old son
I hope that he can get fixed and live that normal life that he wants.
faces serious criminal charges.
I haven't seen anything in the system that shows me that that's possible.